All right, first we're going to do a regular stitch and flip block. Now, I should also mention stitch and flips are also known as snowballing. So if you hear that term in another pattern, snowballing is the same as stitching and flipping. Okay, so this is our beautiful HST that we've made. We've pieced this together from our 5-inch triangles. This should now measure 4.5 inches. If it doesn't, you need to trim it down. Okay, so we have nice 4.5-inch HST, and then we've got these little 2.5-inch squares that we cut, and I mark mine from point to point just using a regular pen. And now I'm going to line this up right along the corner of my half square triangle like this. Okay, and if I'm doing a bunch of these, I'll pin these into place and stack them all together because, once again, I like to chain piece whenever I can. So I'm just going to do this whole stack and then I'll show you how I chain piece them. All right, I've got my stack ready to go, and I have my regular foot on my machine and my needle is positioned in the center, and I'm just going to sew right along the line that I made from point to point like this. Now, normally I'd probably have these blocks in the other direction. It doesn't matter. Okay, I get to the end of this one, and I can just go ahead and lay this one on top of this one and let my machine feed it through. And I just keep going like this to chain piece all of them, because anytime I can chain piece, it saves time, it saves thread, and I'm trying to stay right on that line. And then when we get all of them done, we take them out, clip them apart, and then we'll trim off this excess piece here and we'll iron them open. Okay, that's up next. So now that I've got all of these stitch and flip pieces sewn onto here, this is how it's going to look. But you cut this excess off first. So you can either do it with a ruler and a rotary cutter to get your 1/4 inch. But I've done so many stitch and flip blocks in my lifetime, because it's one of the most common blocks that I use in a lot of my quilts, that I just use scissors and I kind of eyeball it. Helps to have super sharp scissors. And then, yeah, I might even finger press it. So because you never know where the bulk is going to land in this Orbiter quilt, because the blocks go in so many directions, I probably iron it open just to help reduce that bulk. So you finger press it to get right into the seam and then iron that. And then that's it. That's a stitch and flip. It's super easy to do. It's really handy way of adding triangles onto blocks. Another thing that I just did yesterday, which is not part of the Orbiter quilt, but it's maybe another new pattern, is made this block. And so these are flying geese on all 4 sides. And with the flying goose block, you're using a rectangle and 2 squares, and you're stitching and flipping the 2 squares to make those 2 triangles. So hooray for flying geese, right? And hooray for stitch and flips. So there are a ton of stitch and flips in the Orbiter. This is the regular one that I just showed you. And next up, I will show you the wacky stitch and flip, because it's a little wacky. All right, good stuff.